Alright, so these notes are going to go in your notebook. They should be number 14. This is called Gravity and the Solar System. Alright, so first let's talk about gravity. Okay, what is gravity? So gravity is the force of attraction between objects that is due to mass and distance. Super important to look at that relationship between mass and distance. So what does that mean? That means that the greater mass an object has, the greater gravity. Stronger. Okay, so let's do stronger because it's a force. So a force is a push or a pull. So the stronger the gravity will be. So for instance, Jupiter, Saturn, they're all going to have a stronger gravity if compared to Earth because they have a greater mass. Remember that mass is the amount of matter in an object. So the opposite of that, alright, so let's talk about distance. Alright, smaller distance, so the closer together objects are, equals stronger gravity. So if you were going to look at the gravitational pull between Mercury and Neptune, okay, the distance between those, or Mercury and Earth, you have to look at if they're closer, it's going to have stronger gravity. The further away you go is the weaker the gravity gets. And when we're talking about this, we're talking about this in reference to planets, space objects. So something that it mentions in the lesson is Kepler's laws. Okay, Kepler was a scientist. The law that you just need to know about is the one that talks about a planet's orbit. Okay, it's not a perfect circle. It is elliptical. Okay, it is elliptical around the sun. So elliptical, so this would be more of a perfect circle. It's not like that. Okay, it's more of like an oval, like an ellipse. Okay. Next thing we need to talk about is the law of universal gravitation. Okay. So the law of universal gravitation states all objects in the universe. Notice it says universal, so all objects in the universe attract each other through gravitational force. So the law of universal gravitation states that all objects in the universe attract each other through gravitational force. So all objects in the universe, that's where universal comes from, attract each other through gravitational force. That's where gravitation comes from. Okay, so something else is that gravitational force increases as mass increases, or as the distance decreases. Okay, so it kind of goes back to, it's very similar to what was up here to what's up here. Okay, so gravitational force increases as the mass increases. So the greater mass you have, the more gravitational force you have. The less mass you have, the weaker the gravitational force is. The distance, the closer you are, the stronger the gravity. The farther away you are, then that gravitational force decreases. Okay? So now let's talk about how gravity helped form the solar system. All right, this is also in your lesson. I'm just pulling out a lot of the important pieces of that lesson that you were supposed to read for homework. Okay, the solar system formed from the solar means sun, okay, nebula, which collapsed and began to rotate. So, because remember, we have these orbits, right? So, it kind of turned into a disk. So then it started to spin, and then things started to separate, and gravity started to pull things together, and that's how we ended up with planets and having them in their orbits. So when the disk collapsed, when the disk stopped, the sun and planets formed. Okay, so this is going to sound kind of crazy, but just in your mind, think about, you have all these chairs in a circle. You're playing musical chairs, all right? So you have all this dust and this gas and all this stuff in space that's just spinning around, okay, and this solar nebula just spinning around, and then it just gets flat, so it's kind of getting tired, and it's rotating, and it's rotating, and it's rotating, and then when it stops, okay, gravity pulls the dust and the gas, and the sun and the planets get formed. Okay, that's really all you need to know. You don't need to know super specifics on, you know, how the gas giants formed, how the terrestrial planets formed. Just know that after that rotation stopped, gravity then pulls the dust and the gas, and that's how these objects in space were formed. Okay, so this should be number 14 in your notes, gravity and the solar system.